The Movie Preview Critic. Informing and entertaining your movie world.
What's up, good movie lovers? Welcome to the Avatar Audio Movie Review. Just a little warning here before we get going. This review will be dealing with a lot of details from the movie, so there are going to be spoilers. If you haven't seen it yet, don't listen to this. Turn it off for now, check out the film, come back, and then finish it, because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. With that said, let's begin the discussion. I checked out Avatar at a midnight show at a local theater. I did not see it on IMAX, but I was able to check it out in 3D. First off, what everyone is saying is true about the visuals. Amazing. Groundbreaking. Absolutely. You can't deny that James Cameron has done something unique. Not 100% unique, because you could say Robert Zemeckis has kind of started to pioneer this technology where you film the actors and then you do the CGI over them, which is something that was born out of Richard Linklater's idea in Waking Life, where he filmed the actors and then kind of did the old school Walt Disney thing where artists drew over them and kind of painted over them. That was done in Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly. So we kind of have this little evolution going on, and James Cameron has taken it to the next level. This was maybe the first 3D movie where I really forgot about the 3D and kind of just accepted it as part of the experience and wasn't thinking about it when it was going on, which is what you want. You don't want any kind of technology or anything on that level to be constantly reminding you that it's there. Best effects go unnoticed and add to the story, which this eventually did. It really brought you into the world. Also, with this 3D experience, the characters just look so real, and that's just another step in that evolving of the CGI technology, where when you're looking at the Na'vi, you can just absolutely see the texture on their faces and they look like real people. It stops looking like CG. I don't really want to talk about this aspect too much because it stands out for itself, and that's what everyone is really responding to, and that's really what Cameron pushed. He definitely marketed that aspect of the movie a lot. He said that it would be a new experience, no one's ever seen it like this before, and it is a new standard in terms of how you can do 3D in a movie, where it's not like My Bloody Valentine where you're there just to see the axe or the pick fly out at the screen and you think it's going to hit you. So it's definitely setting the standard. It's not as revolutionary as the T-1000 was in Terminator 2, because we have seen hints of the CGI coming, especially with the Polar Express and Beowulf, both done by Robert Zemeckis. But again, that looks like a grad student in college playing with this technology, and Cameron is a master of it. So let's tip our cinematic hats to him. What I really want to talk about is that I have to admit I was a little disappointed with the characters. But before jumping into that, let's talk about the story. The story I wasn't disappointed with. Overall, I'll just tell you right now, I was really happy with the movie. A film like this, with so much hype behind it, it's always a challenge to live up to that. Maybe the last movie to truly live up to the hype that it had was The Dark Knight. And that was pulled off really because of Heath Ledger playing the Joker. But The Dark Knight had a complete story, had all the elements working for it. It was a great action movie when it had to be. It was based in character. It had awesome story twists. It was directed well, acted well. It was a complete, total film. And it was a simple story, because that's one of the critiques here for Avatar, that it's too simple. Just a note on storytelling on the big screen. Movies are about simple stories and complex characters. I can go back to James Cameron's other films if you're talking about Terminator. Okay, it sounds complex because there's time travel involved, it's sci-fi, but it's basically an assassin from the future comes back to kill a woman who's going to be the mother of the future leader of a future resistance. It's pretty simple. You could say the same thing about Aliens, where Ellen Ripley travels to an alien planet to see what's happened to a colony, discovers that these alien creatures are there, and now they must survive. Or Titanic. A couple falls in love aboard the Titanic and they must survive while the ship's sinking. It's very simple storytelling, but what's interesting in those movies are the complex characters. In terms of Avatar, everyone is also making a note that, oh, it's a ripoff, it's basically The Last Samurai or Dances with Wolves. That's true, absolutely. And the more stories that you see, the more the human race ages, the more it's going to borrow from its history of archetypical storytelling. Dances with Wolves is also a ripoff of Pocahontas, and they all have this theme of a person from one culture that visits a new culture and is transformed and learns some lessons, then looks differently at the place and the people that they came from. It's not a new concept. It's been done with the Greeks, with the Romans, probably with the Babylonians. I don't know history, but I'm sure it has. The Sumerians. If you're human, you've gone through that, whether it's from your family to another family, one set of friends to another set of friends, or one country to another country. So it's always going to be happening within the human race. And it's an important story because it deals with having one perspective and possibly growing and being open to learning. Here, it's a little more heavy-handed. I will admit definitely that it has a strong environmentalist angle to it, where it's Mother Earth and nature versus the greed of capitalism, unrelenting pursuit of profit that destroys the harmony of what already exists, and living life just on the physical level versus the spiritual level. Personally, I like to go to movies where they have these kind of elements to them. Sometimes, if it's a little too heavy-handed, it can be a bit annoying, but when it's done right, you're entertained on one level, and you're stimulated intellectually, spiritually on another level. Nothing wrong with that. We're dealing with storytelling, which deals with human experience, humans going through some kind of struggle, coming out the other end having learned something, or been transformed, or maybe resisted that transformation. Either way, we see someone as our avatar. We go to the movies kind of the same way Jake Sully goes here. He gets into that little pod and puts the neurosynaptic reader apparatus on his head, and he's transported into another body. The movie theater's kind of the same thing for us. We get in there, we sit down, the lights go out, and now we transmit our persona, our identity into the main character on some level. We grow unconscious of our body, unless we're eating popcorn or having some sips of pop, and we're in that story now. So movies are very much an avatar experience. And the more human those characters in the movie are, the more the struggle they have to go through, the more engaging of an experience it's going to be. Now, Avatar, again, does borrow concepts from the Pocahontas Dances with Wolves movies. I've heard it rips off a story titled Call Me Joe, which I've never read, but it's a sci-fi story that deals with people exploring Jupiter using other bodies. One of my personal favorite sci-fi novels is a book by Robert Sheckley called Mind Swap, which deals with people going on vacations by swapping bodies. And you could say that Avatar borrows from the structure of Titanic, where the first half of it is exploring this new world. In Titanic, it's a new ship. Here, it's a new planet, and the characters fall in love. And then in Titanic, it hits that iceberg, and bam, it's an action movie until the end. Same thing with Avatar. Once the Tree of Life clubhouse that all the Na'vi stay in is attacked, from that moment on, it's an action movie. Same thing. But that is a simple story. Now we want to have the complex character. So I'm not so upset about it borrowing from structures of other stories. That's kind of an easy way out. It's a very easy way to say, oh, Avatar sucked. Let's just say that it's like these other movies. You can go back to Terminator 2 and say it has the exact same structure of Terminator 1, right down to the final chase on the highway, where there's a little car with the good guys in it being chased by the big truck that crashes and damages the bad guy, but he comes back for one final attack in a warehouse. And why isn't anyone mentioning that The Hangover, everyone's favorite comedy of 2009, is basically a story ripoff of Dude, Where's My Car? It's interesting that a movie that everyone loves is getting away with basically taking the exact structure of an earlier movie that everyone's pretty much agreed is a Razzie-worthy addition to the film library. So just because The Hangover has the same structure as Dude, Where's My Car, some guys wake up not knowing what happened from the previous night, and they slowly piece together the truth in a comedic manner. Just because that structure is borrowed here for The Hangover doesn't mean The Hangover is unoriginal. What it does is take something that already exists and improve upon it. So I say enough with the argument that Avatar is Dances with Wolves, because I'm just going to respond that The Hangover is Dude, Where's My Car? So if we're dealing with old ideas, old archetypes, what we want is relevance for our world today, for ourselves, for our struggle to find a path through life. Is there a way you can take that old idea and make it hold true for today? One movie that did this pretty well, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I thought it was a decent film, was Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, where it took A Christmas Carol, the Charles Dickens story. You're going to be visited by 3 ghosts and learn something about your life, and hopefully you can change the path that you're on right now. And they made it a romantic comedy. I thought it worked pretty well. The challenge for all storytellers is to take the old, make it new and fresh, and make it relevant for us. And in my preview review, I mentioned the term original, and I've gotten a lot of comments about, oh, you said that Avatar's original. What I meant, and what I talked about a little bit in that preview review is that when it comes to Hollywood, original means original screenplay, original idea that no one in the business asked you to write. Most movies are adaptations of something. It's an adaptation of a novel, a TV show, a comic book, or it's a remake, it's a reboot of something. You have to say that it's an original idea. It's an original screenplay, not based on anything. Because of that, Hollywood has no reference point in terms of the marketability of the movie, and that's the most important factor here. It's original because it's not based on anything else, and Hollywood is scared of that.
Long live good movies!